أما بعد فأعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. My dear respected Naib Emir, Mr. Chairman, distinguished guests, my brothers and sisters, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. I greet you in the name of peace this beautiful evening. The topic on which I will be speaking on this evening, as my dear beloved Amir have just mentioned, it is called the True Islam, a campaign against extremism. The Ahmadiyya Muslim community for over 125 years has been striving diligently to impart the true teachings of Islam. It forcefully condemns violence in any shape or form or for any reason. In the USA, the Ahmadiyya Muslim community has launched campaigns such as Muslim for Life, Muslim for Loyalty, to implement the Islamic teachings into action. As a result of the Muslim for Life campaign, the Ahmadiyya Muslim community are saving over 30,000 lives each year through the blood drives. And by way of Muslim for Loyalty, they are informing the general public that serving their country is an integral to Islamic faith rather. Presently, to further elucidate the peaceful teachings of Islam and to counter the ominous menace of extremism, a nationwide campaign, True Islam and the Extremists, has been launched in the USA by the Ahmadiyya Muslim community. The rise of Daesh, ISIL in Syria and Iraq has alarmed the world and caused many questions to whether the brutal terror groups exploits are grounded in the core teachings of Islam. Does extremism in any form have any place in Islam? This is the question. Does Islam condone such concept as punishing apostate with death, imposing Shariat laws and non-Muslims, and waging jihad? An explanation of the new True Islam campaign launched by the Ahmadiyya Muslim community to discredit Daesh, ISIL, and ISIS, an extremist group, by focusing, in fact, on 11 fundamental teachings of Islam. An appeal as to why everyone, whether Muslim or not, should rally around this campaign. The True Islam, in fact, rejects all acts of terrorism. I repeat, the True Islam rejects all acts of terrorism. I will quote the Holy Quran in chapter 29, verse 37. The Holy Quran states, the Holy Quran states that in fact the Quran forbids Muslims from creating disorder in the world. The Quran says, do not go about committing iniquity in the earth and causing disorder. The Holy Quran also recognizes the sanctity of all human life. The Holy Quran tells us, it states, whosoever kill a person, it shall be as if he had killed all of mankind. And whoever save a life, it shall be as if he had saved the life of all of mankind. Again, True Islam recognizes that there's no justification exists for terrorism against any individual, government, or nation for any reason. Therefore, the actions of extremists and terrorists ascribing to Islam or in absolute contradiction to the Islamic teachings. The Holy Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessing of God be upon him, rejected all type of terrorism in the name of Islam. Even while Muslims faced 12 years of vehement persecution in Mecca, the Holy Prophet Muhammad did not allow any violent response. Instead, the Holy Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessing of God be upon him, he ordered his followers to migrate to another land rather than to retaliate. The Holy Prophet Muhammad, he says, this act was in exact accordance with the teachings of the Holy Quran. He said, we were treated as weak in the land. The Holy Quran states in chapter 4, verse 98, they will say, was not Allah earth vast enough for you to emigrate therein? Thus, the Holy Quran teaches that even in the face of intense persecution, a Muslim must sooner emigrate as a means to maintain peace rather than to retaliate. The true Islam categorically rejects and condemns every form of terrorism by any individual, a group, or government. The true Islam most strongly condemns all acts and forms of terrorism because not only Islam, but also no religion, whatever its name, can sanction violence and bloodshed of innocent men, women, and children in the name of God. True Islam, therefore, condemns all form of terrorism. True Islam always encourages the freedom of conscience and the promotion of human welfare. Islam not only preaches peace and brotherhood, but also promotes tolerance and broad-mindedness, forbearance, and complete harmony in a multi-religious society, in a pluralistic society, that is. The Holy Prophet of Islam tried his very best not to hurt the feelings of others, and thus he set up an excellent example for the believers. As we look at the life of the Holy Prophet Muhammad, once there was a funeral procession in the streets of Medina. When the funeral procession reaches the Prophet of Islam, he was sitting down and he stood up in respect to the funeral. Another Muslim who was watching this scene drew the attention of the Holy Prophet Muhammad, peace be on him. He states that the funeral was that of a Jew. When the Prophet of Islam heard this, he replied in the affirmative, was the Jew not a human being like you and me? If such a respect is given to the dead of other religions, the living deserve more respect and honor. On another occasion, in fact, there was a Christian delegation of the Najran met in the Holy Prophet's mosque in Medina. When the time for prayer came, as they were having a meeting and the time for prayer came, they were trying to find a place to pray. As you know, because it's a mosque, our Christian brethren felt that the mosque was not a place for the Christian to pray. But the Holy Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessing of God be upon him, he says, no. He says that this is the house of God. If you want to pray, the mosque is a place for you to pray. So please, take your delegation and say your prayers. What an excellent example of religious liberty and tolerance was displayed. In the same spirit, the doors of the Ahmadiyya Muslim community are always open to all who wish to worship the one God. And this community is a community of peace, the Ahmadiyya Muslim community. True Islam recognizes that jihad means to struggle. And in recent years, we have been seeing this word tossed around, jihad. But jihad essentially means to struggle and strive in good works and to attain nearness to Almighty God. True Islam teaches that the violent jihad has no place in today's world. No place. There's no place for the jihad in today's world. The Holy Quran tells us in chapter 5, verse 33, it says, whoever killed a person, it shall be as if he had killed all of mankind. There's no place for jihad. The Holy Quran explicitly places equal value on all human life. True Islam rejects the violent jihad, whether it be against a Muslim or non-Muslim. The Holy Quran explains that Muslims are permitted to fight only in specific situations. And I may add, permission to fight is given to those against whom war is made, according to the Holy Quran, because they have been wronged. True Islam recognizes that fighting is only permissible in self-defense and only after an aggressor first wages war against you. As we know, the Prophet of Islam, the Holy Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessing of God be upon him, have never waged war against anyone. He was never on the offensive. He was always on the defensive. The Holy Quran further clarifies that, and if God did not repel some men by means of others, there would surely have been pulled down clusters and churches and synagogues and mosques wherein the name of God is oft commanded. The Holy Quran, chapter 22, verse 41. Thus, even when war is in self-defense, even when war in self-defense rather is permitted, its purpose is only to ensure freedom of religion for all faith, not just Islam. Instead of a violent jihad, true Islam champions a bloodless intellectual jihad of the pen. Jihad of the pen. Part of one's perennial jihad is to acquire knowledge and to engage in a dialogue regarding matters of faith without any compulsion. Islam states in chapter 2, verse 57, there's no compulsion in religion. The Holy Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessing of God be upon him, life illustrates this belief when he became the de facto of Mecca, ruler of Mecca. He forgave his former persecutors on the singular condition that they respect freedom of religion, but not freedom of religion of not only Islam, but freedom of religion for all religion, in fact. That is freedom of religion that means faith, paganism, Judaism, and Islam. In the Holy Quran, first revealed verses demonstrate that jihad of the pen is the only way to propagate Islam. In the chapter 96, verse 2 to 5, it explained, it says, convey thou in the name of thy Lord who created, taught men by the pen. The Holy Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessing of God be upon him, has reported to have says, the Holy Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessing of God be upon him, says, the ink of the scholar is holier than the blood of the martyr. Therefore, true Islam advocates a nonviolent jihad as a fundamental tenet. True Islam recognizes the practical equity and spiritual equality of men and women. The Holy Quran, chapter 4, verse 125 states, but whoso does good, whether male or female, and is a believer, such shall enter heaven. According to true Islam, the most important goal and the greatest objective of a human being is to attain righteousness and nearness to God. Both men and women have equal capacity in achieving this goal. While the spiritual realm is most important, Islam immensely values the equitable status of women in secular world. Islam was in fact the first religion to champion the educational and economic rights of women. The Holy Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessing of God be upon him, had such high respect for women and knowledge and education and wisdom that he indicated that his wives was half the faith. He said half the religion of Islam can be learned from his wife, Hazrat Aisha, peace be upon her. Indeed, after his death, the Holy Prophet Muhammad demonstrated that women in Islam are respected as an important source of knowledge. True Islam also granted economic rights to women 14 centuries ago, establishing for women the ability to own, keep, and manage their own property as wealth, and to seek divorce, and to remarry, and to inherit, and to ensure their own economic independence. So the Holy Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessing of God be upon him, gave women the emancipation 1400 years ago. The Holy Prophet Muhammad's wife, Hazrat Khadija, she was a businesswoman. She owned and operated her own thriving business, and true Islam advocates freedom of conscience, religion, and speech. True Islam teaches that every human being has the right to freedom of speech and freedom of religion without the threat of coercion or punishment. This understanding stems directly from the Holy Quran, which clearly declares there is no compulsion in religion. Chapter 2, verse 57 of the Holy Quran. Therefore, true Islam wholeheartedly support the First Amendment of the United States Constitution, as well as the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, both of which, like true Islam, guarantees freedom of conscience, religion, and freedom of speech. True Islam teaches that Islam advocates complete separation of mosque and state. The Holy Quran does not endorse a specific form of government, but instead it requires that justice oversee whatever form is used. The Holy Quran states, "Verily, God commands you to make over the trust to those entitled to them. When you govern between men, you judge with justice." The Holy Quran, chapter 4, verse 59. Therefore, true Islam recognizes that justice, not religion, is the determinative factor when governing a society. True Islam requires that Muslims, in fact, loyalty and obedience to their respective country of residence and laws. The Holy Quran states, "O you believe, or obey Allah and obey the Prophet and obey those in authority from among you." Chapter 4, verse 60. The verse demonstrates that a Muslim's obedience and loyalty to the government is required, regardless of the fate of those in power. True Islam teaches that Muslims are not only obligated to obey their government, they must also be grateful for the rights and freedoms that the government provided. Indeed, the Holy Quran states in chapter 55, verse 61, "Indeed, it is the reward of goodness anything but goodness," because we as Americans benefit from the country's freedom. We are duty bound to repay the government with our loyalty. The Holy Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessing of God be upon him, declared, he who is not grateful to his people can never be truly grateful to Almighty God. Loyalty and gratitude to America do not forbid dissent. Dissent must be expressed, however, within the confines of the law. No Muslim, I repeat, can take the law in his or her own hands. The Holy Quran states, implicitly, that creating disorder and threatening the stability of a society is a path to damnation, not salvation. Therefore, true Islam advocates loyalty to one's own country as a fundamental tenet. True Islam values all human life, recognizing universal human rights as a fundamental tenet of Islam. True Islam emphasizes that mankind's equality derived from men sharing a single creator and rejects any notion of racial or ethnic superiority. The Holy Quran states in chapter 49, verse 14, it says, "O mankind, we have created you from a male and female, and we have made you tribes and subtribes, that you may know one another. Verily, the most honorable among you in the sight of Almighty God is he who is most righteous among you. Surely Allah, Almighty God, is all-knowing, all-aware." Therefore, true Islam rejects any concept of inequality in mankind and instead encompasses the universal declaration of human rights. True Islam teaches that every verse of the Holy Quran is valid and that there are no superfluous or contradictory verses in the Holy Quran. The Holy Quran states its contents is no excess. Chapter 6, verse 39. But true Islam recognizes that no one religion holds a monopoly over salvation. The Holy Quran clearly supports this belief as it declares, "Surely those who believe, the Jews and the Christians and the Sabians, whichever party from among these truly believe in Almighty God and the last day and does good deeds, shall have their reward with their Lord, and no fear shall come upon them, nor shall they grieve." Chapter 2, verse 63 of the Holy Quran. True Islam believes in a unified spiritual leadership to peacefully guide Muslims. This understanding stems directly from the Holy Quran and the Holy Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessing of God be upon him, on his example. Indeed, the Quran teaches that sectarian violence exists today as a form of punishment from God for refusal to unite under spiritual leadership. Say, "He who has power to send punishment upon you from above you and from beneath your feet, or to confound you by splitting you into sect and make you taste the violence of one another." Chapter 6, verse 66. Therefore, the Holy Quran implores Muslims to promote peace by remaining united. Chapter 3 of the Holy Quran states, it says, "Hold fast all together by the rope of Almighty God of Allah, and be not divided. And remember the favor of Allah which He bestowed upon you when you were enemies, and He united your hearts in love, so that by His grace you became as brothers, and you were on the brink of a pit of fire, and He saved you from it." Therefore, true Islam teaches it is incumbent upon Muslims to remain united as one community, as that is the best protection against violence and discord. True Islam rejects the concept of a bloody Messiah. The Holy Quran states that any messenger is only responsible for the clear conveyance of the message. This verse demonstrates, in fact, that each prophet sent to simply convey a message and cannot resort to force. In conclusion, throughout the history of mankind, no prophet of God ever engaged in a bloody feat that extremists attribute to the second coming of the Messiah. This real task assigned to the awaited Messiah was to lovingly guide mankind away from inhumane behavior. This is why true Islam teaches that the awaited Messiah will be a peaceful prophet rather. He will rid the world of injustice and misguided belief through rational and logical arguments, not violence. This belief is in exact accordance with the teachings of the Holy Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessing of God be upon him. He says, "I swear by him who has my life in his hands, that the Son of Mary will indeed descend among you, and he will arbitrate with justice." Therefore, true Islam rejects the concept of a bloody Messiah because it is a concept fully contradictory to Islam and the Holy Quran. And the 13th annual Peace Symposium, organized by the Ahmadiyya Muslim community, His Holiness Hazrat Mirza Masroor Ahmad, may Allah give him long life and strengthen his hands, the worldwide head of the Ahmadiyya Muslim community, urges world leaders and the press to push for peace while explaining Islam's true teachings about peace and love. He states, the simple truth is that there is no need for anyone to fear true Islam. While some people claim Islam to be a religion of extremism and one that promotes attacks on other forms of terrorism, nothing could be further from the truth, he said. It is clear that true Islam is not a religion of extremism, attacks, or violence. There is no need for Islamophobia because Islam's true teachings are of peace, tolerance, and mutual respect. Islam's teachings are of upholding human values and protecting honor, dignity, and freedom for all people. Islam is a religion of love and brotherhood based on the bedrock of peace and tolerance. The promised Messiah, Hazrat Mirza Ghulam Ahmad, peace be on him, was sent to revive Islam's true teaching and bring peace and light to the world. As stated throughout this speech, and the sole purpose of the True Islam campaign against extremism is to educate the world that true Islam strongly condemns all acts of extremism and violence. It is love that wins the heart. A word of love and affection is far sharper than any sword of steel. The Ahmadiyya Muslim community is in over 207 countries around the world, wherein millions and millions of Ahmadiyya Muslims reside. And their motto is love for all, hatred for none. That is true Islam. All praise is due to Allah, Lord of all the worlds.